All right, let's talk about something that hits home for a lot of us, anxiety. When you decide you want some help with it, you suddenly face this big question. Do I need a coach or do I need a therapist? And what's the difference anyway? Well, we're going to clear all of that up right now. You know that feeling, right? That tightness in your chest before a big meeting, the stress when you're going through a major life change, or just that general feeling that everything's a bit too much. It's a universal human experience. So the real question isn't if you should reach out for support, it's about figuring out what kind of support is going to be the right fit for you in this moment. Getting on the right path is a huge first step, so let's really break down your options.
Okay, first up, let's step into what we'll call the coaching zone. This is for when you're dealing with what's called subclinical anxiety. Basically the kind of anxiety that's a real pain, it gets in your way, but it isn't completely derailing your life. Think of this zone as being all about building practical skills.
So, when is coaching a really good fit? Well, it's perfect for these very specific, in-the-moment stressors. Like the absolute dread of getting up on a stage to speak, or the pressure cooker feeling of finals week, or even just the anxiety that pops up when you're starting a new job. For these situations, a coach can give you a solid toolkit to manage it all.
So, who's the perfect person for coaching? Well, it works best when you're in a pretty solid place overall. You're generally stable, you're motivated to put in the work, and your anxiety isn't totally stopping you from, living your life day to day. The focus here is on learning new strategies, not necessarily digging into deep-seated wounds from the past.
But what about when that anxiety feels like more than just a hurdle to get over? That's when we cross a really important line. And this is where we need to talk about therapy, which offers a much different and more clinical kind of support. This slide really gets to the heart of it. Let's make it super simple. Think of coaching as your skill-building workshop for handling mild stress when you're otherwise doing okay. Therapy, on the other hand, is medical treatment. It's designed to diagnose and treat actual clinical disorders that come with severe, persistent symptoms, the kind that really impact your ability to function. And this means that some conditions absolutely 100% require a licensed therapist. If you're dealing with a diagnosed disorder like generalized anxiety disorder or PTSD, if you're having frequent panic attacks, or if you're struggling with phobias that are literally stopping you in your tracks, a therapist is the professional you need, no question. And let's be crystal clear about this one, because it's a non-negotiable. If you have a history of trauma or are dealing with substance abuse, that involves incredibly deep and complex psychological work. This requires the specialized training and the clinical safety net that only a licensed therapist can provide. A coach just isn't trained or equipped to go there.
Okay, so let's say you've figured out you're probably in the coaching zone. What does that actually look like in practice? What kind of tools are in the toolbox of a cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, coach?
It's a very hands-on, practical process. First, you basically become a detective of your own mind. You work with your coach to pinpoint what exactly triggers your anxiety, using things like thought records, where you literally write down the situation, the thought, and the feeling it caused. Then you learn how to challenge those automatic negative thoughts. You practice mindfulness to get a little space between a feeling and how you react to it. And finally, you set small, achievable goals that start building up your confidence and resilience over time.
Now let's zoom in on this one idea, thought reframing. This is a huge part of the work. It's the skill of catching a negative thought in the act, like, I am definitely going to bomb this presentation, and then questioning it. You look for the actual evidence, and then you actively change it to something more realistic and balanced, like, you know what, I've prepared for this and I'm capable of doing a good job. This isn't just about thinking positive. It's about shifting your perspective to what's actually true, which then totally changes how you feel.
All right, we've looked at the two different zones, we've looked at the different toolkits, now let's put it all together so you can figure out how to make the right choice for you.
Okay, if you remember one thing, let it be this. It is not about which option is better. One isn't better than the other. Coaching and therapy are just two different tools for two very different jobs. The goal is to be really honest with yourself about what you're experiencing and choose the right tool for the job you have right now. And hey, this isn't a life sentence. Sometimes people work with a coach for a while and then realize they need to see a therapist. Or they'll finish therapy for a big issue and then hire a coach to help them with future goals. It's all just a spectrum of support.
So, to wrap this up, I want to leave you with this question to really think about. Based on what we've talked about, what does your gut tell you is the right next step for you? Are you looking to build some skills for specific situations, or do you feel like you need deeper clinical support to work through something more persistent? The real power is just in knowing the difference and feeling confident in taking that first right step for yourself.